Welcome everyone, welcome to this 10x live stream. I thought I'd give you an update on where I'm at and what I'm working on at the moment. So the last stream was back in December and I was talking about memory then. So yeah, the memory build went live just after, well actually I think it was the 28th it went live, and it's gone really well. I've been having reports of 75 to 80% memory reduction, which is fantastic, exactly what I hoped for. And also, so far, no bug reports. So no one's reported any slowdowns or anything getting worse. So I call that a really big success. I'm really happy with that. Now, what I was going to talk about first, let's do website first. So, as some of you probably seen, I've redone the 10x website. And here it is. Hopefully it's looking a lot more professional and ready to release a proper, professionally looking product. So as you can see here, we've got the backers as we had before. How to subscribe, follow me on Twitter obviously. Twitter is still the main way to follow what's going on. Some blurb about what 10x is. And I've also put some of these GIFs on. Now, I'm not a big fan of animating websites. I don't like GIFs. I don't like anything moving on any site. For example, if you have a Twitter avatar that animates, I'll probably block you. I just cannot have things animating when I'm reading text or anything like that. But anyway, I decided to relent and put some on because they are useful to show what 10x can do. But as you can see, they only animate if you hover over. So hopefully that won't offend anyone like me who doesn't like animating stuff. I'll probably add more of these over time, but these are some of the main features, as you probably know. And then the live streams. I've created playlists for these live streams now. Where have they gone? And I've also added descriptions for each one. These are on the YouTube videos as well. So hopefully that will make it a bit easier to search for stuff and find things you're interested in. For example, I think someone was asking about workspaces, and in one of them, this one I've talked all about 10x workspaces and how they work. So you might be interested in that. So yeah, I'll keep that going as we go. And also I've got a page for the new Sane C++ Wednesday evening streams that I've been doing. Only 2 so far. So hopefully that makes it easier for you to get around and find all the information. What else have we got? Most of these pages are the same. Roadmap, which I'll be talking about today. It's mostly up to date, I think. So as you can see, I'm doing the finding files now. And these are the things that I want to do for the beta release. Now, it's a bit confusing because I realised that although I've always said I've been in beta, this is a beta release, really it's more like an alpha because it hasn't been feature complete in any way. So it's more early than what would typically be considered a beta build. So I've changed it on the website to call this the alpha build, and I'm now trying to get to beta. I mean, it doesn't really make much difference. I'm still just trying to get to feature complete, but that will be the official beta release. And as you can see, I've only got 3 things on here to get to feature complete now. There'll probably be a few more that I'll add. I need to go through the GitHub issues and see what else needs doing. But my push now is feature complete, and so that I can get the minimal required feature set for releasing version 1, which will be very exciting. Obviously, it needs a lot of polish and a lot of bug fixing as well. So I'll probably update this page in the next day or two to reflect that. But anyway, we're getting close now. It's exciting. and I'll tell you about the finding files today. So that's the website, I think. Yep, website. I fixed a bug on Windows 11. So those of you who've moved over to Windows 11, you probably noticed that it had this horrible transparent border around the edges. And as I think I've mentioned in one of the previous streams, that's because I take over all of the non-client rendering and render my own border and my own drop shadow and everything like that, which is why you won't also see the rounded corners on 10x, which personally I think is a good thing, but you may disagree. Anyway, so this bug was interesting because I wasn't clearing. I had commented out the Windows erase background message, so it wasn't actually erasing any background. And I believe this transparent border is from Windows 7. So when you start playing around with the non-client area rendering, you'll see it's like going back through time. You'll see various different Windows border rendering, and they're all kind of just layered on top of each other. It's very odd. Anyway, I'm not quite sure what it is, but I think it's the Windows 7 border. So anyway, just adding back that clear erase background message fixed that issue, which is good, because I'm not actually on Windows 11 yet. I'm sure I will be at some point. So that was that bug. I changed the default key mapping for multi-cursor. So for some reason I'd chosen to use Control-Alt-Shift arrow. So when you're using the keys, this multi-cursor select, now it's just on Alt-Shift, which I think is the same as Visual Studio and other editors, so that should make it a bit easier. So if you're just wondering where that's gone, that's still there, it's just changed the mapping. And of course you can change it back if you want to. Right, so let's get on to the finding files, which is the last major feature that's really been missing, I think, from 10x. And obviously it's a pretty important feature. You can't really have an editor without finding files. So I'll show you the UI first. Controller up down is someone's saying is the multi-cursor. Did I say that wrong? Don't know. That's weird. Let's check Visual Studio. That's weird. Only up and down works in Visual Studio. Control-Shift doesn't. Don't know, maybe I've got a different key set up in my Visual Studio. But yeah, let me know if there is a key binding which is just different from any other editor, because I want to keep it as standard as possible. I know all editors have different bindings, but it's nice to keep things as standard as possible so anyone coming to 10x would feel familiar with it. So yeah, let me know if you think it should be changed, but for now I think we'll go with that. So I'm going to show you the UI. The thing about finding files is that I'm really pleased how easily it was implemented. I mean, it's not the most complex of features anyway. It's pretty simple, obviously. But because I've been working so long on all of the features in 10x, I was able just to use all the stuff I've done already. And it just went really smoothly and really quickly. I've done it in like 4 days, I think, and it's almost finished. The only thing I haven't done is the replace yet, but hopefully that won't take more than a day or so. So some of these things I've shown you before, but I just want to show you again just to show how easy it was and how the UI stuff all fits together. So I've probably shown you this before. This is my UI editor that I've used to create all the UI in 10x, written in Windows Forms, unfortunately. But anyway, it's not too bad. So as you can see, it has, this is the find text box. Just put in there match case, word, regular expression, etc., path, extensions, and then the results panel. And that's as complicated as it is, really. It's not, obviously it resizes and everything. Not that exciting, but very easy to do. You know, it took me 5 minutes to knock that up. And then let's go to 10x. Yeah, we're already there. It's a little bit big. Let's make it a bit smaller if you can see. So then in the code, it's literally a matter of just calling create panel from design, and you give it a name, and it creates that panel. And you can hook into various events such as key down and intercepting key down. Intercepting key down, sorry, problems with my second mic again. Okay, we're back. So intercept key down allows you to handle the key down and then tell it to stop processing any more key down messages, which is really useful for stuff like hitting escape to close it, whatever happens to have focus. So obviously find button, you just hook into that. It's just updating colors, etc. Detecting when the text changes. That's, I think, this is the path drop down. So I'll show you in a minute, an autocomplete for the path drop down. And results, let's actually show you it in action. I think this is the right build. It's probably a bit small, isn't it? Let's see if I can get that bigger. There we go. So, yeah, the nice thing about the path is the autocomplete. I'm pretty happy with that. So you can actually type in a path and get the autocomplete, etc. And also you can just type in workspace to search in a current workspace. And then obviously you've got the extensions, and these all have drop downs, so you can choose from pre-existing ones, or you can type your own stuff in there. And the results panel is so that you can send the results to different panels. So if you do one search and you want to keep it and then do another search, you can then see both results panels there at once, which is kind of handy sometimes. Let's do a quick search. Let's try core. So as you can see, it opens up a new tab in Finding Files, called Finding Files. That's weird. It should, when you do a search, it should put the cursor at the top of the file. I'm not quite sure why that's not working. Let's try that again. Okay, so the cursor is there. It's just scrolled down. I have to fix that. But anyway, it handily puts the cursor there, so that if you press enter here, it will go immediately to that file. And you can press F4 to go through the different search results. Let's move that over there. Yeah, you can see it going through different results. For those who haven't used F4, you can use it on any search you do. So, or if you build code, F4 will take you through the errors. So whatever the last thing you did was, F4 will always take you to the next result. It works on workspace search as well. So if you do a search and then close it and then press F4, it will take you through that. So it's just a useful one to remember. It's easily go through different results. So yeah, that all seems to be working quite well. And it's pretty fast. I'll take you through the code now. Obviously I've threaded it, so it's using all the power possible. Okay. So this is all just setting up all of the boxes and hooking into the results, as I said. Really simple code, nothing that interesting, but it just works and it's really nice. Like you see, escape just closes it, enter, submits it. Really simple and very easy and quick to set up. So the intercept, I needed to use intercept key down because of tab. Tab usually takes you to the next tabbing, and shift tabbing obviously goes to the next control. But obviously when it's doing autocomplete, I want tab to fix the complete the autocomplete. So I had to intercept it there and stop it doing the normal tab behavior. Selecting all on focus, etc. And then the submit literally just grabs the results from all the controls and calls the submit, which is a function that the main 10x class can hook into, so it knows when it's been submitted. So this is literally just a wrapper around the UI. It doesn't do any complex logic and doesn't do any of the actual searching. And that's how I like to keep it. I like to keep the wrappers, ideally, as much as possible, as simple and stripped down as possible, so that all the complex logic is somewhere else. It just keeps things simpler to manage. And obviously it's writing state, so that it remembers all the stuff you've changed. Update filtered list. What's that doing? Oh, that's just updating the autocomplete list. I don't think there's anything else in here that's that interesting. Kind of all works as you'd expect. So like I said, very simple short class. Now the members. And it's nice having, because I've got my autocomplete list box and the filtered list class, which does all the filtering. And that's the same code that's used everywhere when you do normal autocomplete when you're typing in 10x. So it was really nice. I could just reuse that, chuck it in there, and it just worked. And yeah, saved me an awful lot of time. So I've also got Finding Files Manager, which, please excuse the name. I do have a tendency to call things manager, which I know is bad. But I just couldn't think of anything else. Basically, because there are 4 results panels, as I showed you in here, I've actually created 4 classes for finding and obviously 4 results panels. So I just needed a class basically that wraps those 4. So this Finding Files Manager has what I call finders, and there are 4 of these, and each finder has Finding Files class, which is the one that actually does the work of finding all the files, and a results panel, which is where it goes. So this Finding Files Manager handles hooking in to the Finding Files, so when it's finished, it then copies the results to the results panel. So it's not actually doing that much work, this class again, and it also handles the go to prev and next result. So again, really simple class, really easy to manage. And it's got a sorry, you can't see this. It's got to go to file and line events you can hook into, so that because it's the 10x main class which handles which file is open, etc. And so when you go to result, this class will just call that and then pass it on to 10x main. So here we see it setting up the finders. Nice thing is I can just change this if I decide we need more than 4. Very easy to change in just one place. But I think 4 should be probably enough for anyone. So it hooks in, like I said, hooks into the finished, calls a function, and just sets up the results panel, gives them names so we know how to, the names of the objects match up to the names in the drop down here. Just keep it all nice and simple. And so this is what gets called when the find is finished. Just goes through, gets the finder that initiated it, and then clears the panel and appends the lines. Simple as that, really. So this is the function that actually does the find. So these inputs here are literally just all the values of all the stuff coming in. So it gets the finder for the results, clears the results, adds some stuff to the results just to show what it's searching for, and then calls the finding files, which is, like I said, the one that does the work. And go to next, improve results. Again, really simple. So again, not really much to talk about in these classes, but that's good for me. They're very simple. They're no more complicated than they should be. And so I'll show you the actual find function, which is a little bit more interesting. So this is the find in files class, and let's have a look at the data. So obviously it's got a task manager and a dispatcher, which I'll talk about in a second. And these are the tasks it's kicked off, and the results. So these are the functions that match the text, which I'll get onto in a second. And so a little bit more interesting now, we've got the actual find, and as I said, it just takes in the inputs and kicks off a task on the task manager. Now this is just a single task, which is calling find task, which as you can see is just below. I try and do that when I'm kicking off a task. I try and keep the function just below it so that I can see, obviously it's easy what it's doing. And obviously it adds tasks to the task list. So what this initial task does is it literally just goes through and gets all of the files recursively from the path, because that can take, a few seconds. So it has to be asynchronous. I couldn't do this on the main thread. Or if it's just the workspace, then just use the workspace files. If not, call directory get files recursive, true. And then we filter. The filtering takes a little, probably not more than a few hundred milliseconds. But it's not instant, especially on a large project. So it's just filtering by extension here. So just grabbing the extension and checking if the extension set contains it. So then we've got a list of all files at this point. So now I just work out how many threads there are, and I create a new task. I divide up the list of files into however many cores you've got, and create one of these find task data structures. And this basically just stores the results, really. So this is going through for each thread, creating a new one of these, which is just below. Oh, I need to change that back. And this contains the list of files for that thread. So each thread will have one of these So each thread knows what files it's got to go over. So once the threads kicks off, there's no more syncing between threads at all. They all store their own results list and they all store their own files list. So they're completely separate, which is really important because you don't want any locking or anything between the threads when it's doing this. So that's just setting up the struct. So that's literally just working out the size of the files list and then reserving it and then adding them, just to avoid unnecessary allocations. And then we do another add task on the task manager. And we pass in this task, which again is down here. We create a context so we can cancel it. And we pass in those two data structures I've just talked about. So again, very simple, and adds it to the tasks array. So that should all be fairly easy to understand. And then this is the one which does the work of actually finding the text. So what can I say about this? So as I said, it supports regular expressions. And I'll just create a regular expression first before going through the files, obviously. For the regular expressions, I do actually use SDL. I'm always saying I never use it, but this is the one case where I do, because I couldn't find a good regular expression library that was free out there. So why not? Why not use SDL in this one case? And obviously, I'm only including SDL in this one file, so it's not going to start polluting my entire code base with tens of thousands of lines of SDL code. So yeah, just makes it a lot easier. So I have to handle unsaved files. So I mean, as I said, I've just got a file list and it's just going through files on disk here. But if the file is open in 10x, obviously I need to search the modified file in memory. So I can't just go to disk. So first I check this unsaved files class and see if it's got this file in it. If it has, it gets the lines. If it's not unsaved, obviously it just reads it off disk. I'll show you this file in a minute, but it basically just keeps a list of all the unsaved files and their contents, and gets initialized when you submit the finding files dialog. So I just call this global function to do. I'll go over each line now, and then I call that function to actually find the text in the line. And if I find it, then I'll get the line, trim it, show the line, create a string which contains the line number, etc., and add it to that list of results. And also I'll add the index so I know where to go to, because when you do a find in files, you see it gives you the line, but also will take you to the index in the line. So I need to store off that information. And I just decided to keep it separate, two separate lists. So I've got the results list here, which is a string array, and the indices list, which is an int array. And the reason I do that is because my string array class is really efficient. And as soon as you start storing, if you had a struct which contained a string and an index, and then you had an array of those structs, you'd suddenly be storing, you'd have loads and loads of allocations for all the strings, and it would frag memory to bits and be really slow. So this string array class is very efficient and will do hardly any allocations, and it's really easy to copy around as well. So I've kept them as two separate arrays, and for performance that's often a good thing to do. Struct of arrays instead of array of structs, etc., as I'm sure you've heard. Can you search for new line in files? No, not currently. Does that even work in other editors? I don't know. It's worth thinking about. So I don't think you can do multi-line searches. Let's try Visual Studio. Yeah, because if you do /n, whatever, then it's just going to find /n in strings. So no, I don't think that actually is supported by other editors anyway. But let me know if you'd need it. I'm sure I could add something. So yeah, that's basically it for the search. And I'll see if it's not a regular. This is all for a regular expression. If it's not a regular expression, it will do a different code path. Because I mean, I could obviously do the conditional inside here and say if it's a regular expression for each line, but I don't want to do that. I want to. A lot of my searching, especially the workspace search, I separate out to reduce the amount of conditionals as much as possible. So even though a lot of this code is duplicated, I don't care. I mean, it's only a few lines, it's not the end of the world. But it keeps it much faster because it doesn't have to check on each line what kind of search it's doing. So yeah, this is exactly the same as that code. So this is just a global function in this file, and it literally just takes a line, the text we're looking for, what string case it is, and whether it's matching a word. Again, I could split it out for the string case and word as well, but my string functions already take a string case anyway, so it's just much easier to do that. And the match word only applies if it finds a match. So it's not going to be doing this match word check every time anyway. And there's a few little subtleties here which are kind of interesting. So obviously it's just getting the index of the thing you're looking for in the line. And if it doesn't find the thing you're looking for at all in the line, then we're done with that line. We can just return -1, so we haven't found it. So that's simple. And we want to keep that code path very, very fast, because that will be the case, 99% of the time probably. Usually you're only getting a few hundred matches in a few million lines of code. So this code path of it not finding anything in the line has to be fast. So that's why it's structured this way. So if it does find a match, if we're not matching words, then we're done, that's fine. And again, that should be really, really fast. So that's a fast code path as well. If we're matching the word only, again, like I said, this only happens if we've already found a match. So then we just get length of the text we're looking for and check is word, which is a function I already had in my utils library. So that just checks the chars at the beginning and end and sees whether they're word chars or not. So obviously if they're not word chars, then it is a word. So if it is a word, again, we're done. We can return that match, which is fine, because we only need to return the first match on the line, not all of the matches. If it isn't a match, then we need to increment this pointer into the line, reduce the length by the same amount, and then go around again. That's why this while loop is here. Because obviously if we find a match, but it's not a word, there might be a match further on in the line. So then we obviously need to increment the pointer and then carry on and do another check from further into the line. And again, we just do exactly the same thing. And the regular expression one is almost identical. And again, it's doing the same as word check. It's just using regular expression instead. So there's a little bit of a subtlety there where it's important it'd be very easy in this to put loads of conditionals and loads of extra checks. But this is the minimum I could get the code down to, and it's pretty fast. So I'm happy with that. So that's probably about it. So once it finds the match, so we've gone through all the lines and found the match. And like I said, you can cancel these tasks. So every time around the loop, because one thing that's really annoying about certain other editors is it always takes a really long time to cancel any search. I always accidentally search for open brace in the entire code base, for example, and obviously that takes forever, and then you're trying to cancel it, and it's really annoying. So this should cancel instantly. So every line it checks, it checks the task manager context, or the task context for this, to see if it's been cancelled. So anyway, once it's done that and obviously gone through and finished, if it hasn't been cancelled, we decrement this. I think that's the atomic, yeah. That's just how many threads we've kicked off. And once it gets to 0, so we decrement it, and if it's 0, then we're finished. And we call this onFinished function, which is again just below. So again, the flow of all this code is very nice. You've got the task that gets kicked off, and then you've got the task which gets the files. Underneath that, this kicks off tasks for each thread to actually find the text. This is the function that finds the text. And this is what's called when it's finished. So although I've previously said I don't usually order functions in my files, I found that when doing threading like this, it is very helpful to have one function after the other, so you can kind of read the flow down, and it really does help sort of mentally to get what's going on. So the onText find text finished gets the results from all of. Remember, each thread has one of these find task data structure with the results and the indices. So then we just have to collect them all together into one here, and the indices, collect them all there. So we've now got one list of all the results. And this main thread dispatcher, because remember this is called from whichever thread happened to finish last. So we don't know which thread this is coming from. And ideally we want the results callback to happen on the main thread, because all UI code runs on the main thread pretty much. So this main thread dispatcher is just something that you can add a function and it will get called on main thread in the next frame. And I just have a convention of calling it _main, so I know it's going back on the main thread now. And again, this function is just below, so you can see exactly what it's doing. And all it does is literally pass the results on to this finished function. This finished function here, which people can hook into, so we know when it's done. And that's pretty much it. And hopefully that was just really obvious and simple. No surprises there, and really easy to understand, and hopefully easy to maintain, and fast. It's pretty fast. I was thinking of adding in a cache. I always like to add in caches for everything. And I might well do that. And I was thinking I could just do it for very small files, because the thing that takes the time is not so much this actual searching through a text in Windows, at least, it's opening the file. And if you've got, say, 10,000 tiny little files, almost all the time will be spent actually opening the file. And for a large file, it doesn't matter. The open time is insignificant compared to searching through a file. So if you've got a file of 10,000 lines of code, opening the file isn't going to take a lot of time in relation to that. But if you've got a file, a lot of files are just 100 lines of code or so, and then most of the time is spent opening the file. So I could add a cache in that just caches off the results of the file, maybe compresses it, stores it in memory, and that wouldn't take up more than 100 or 200 meg of memory or so. So I could add that in, and then it would be even faster. But we'll see how we go with this as it is now. So I don't want to add extra memory if I don't need to. So yeah, hopefully it'll be fast enough. So I think that's probably it. So again, like I said, I keep a list of workspace files so I know what they are. Oh yeah, I was going to show you the unsaved. Oh, we're already here. So unsaved files. Let's move that over so you can see it. So this unsaved files class is a thing that just keeps a copy of all the files that are in memory. Because I don't really want to, for this finding files manager, to have to refer back to all the other systems of where I store the files in memory. So I decided to take a copy of it. And it's not that much overhead because you don't often have, hundreds of files of modified changes at once. Usually it's only a few. So I decided just to take a copy and the update function, you literally just give it a list of the files, and I've passed in a function to get the lines and to get a modified ID. Because what I don't want to do is copy off every file every time, because some of the files might be pretty big that are modified in memory. So I only want to copy them if they have actually changed. So this class is just storing a copy of the latest modified files. Every time I make a modification to a file, I change an int, which is just a modified ID, and then I can just check whether I need to update it, obviously. And if I do, I just call that getLines function that I passed in to get the lines in my string array class, and then just set it and set the modified ID. So this update function should be pretty quick. And then obviously it just removes old files that aren't modified anymore. Say when you save a file, obviously it's got to remove it from this modified list. And this is stored in 10x main. So 10x main is the main class for all 10x stuff, and it's kind of the hub that everything comes off of. It has the finding files manager, which, like I said, is the one that stores those 4 different finding files classes and results panels. And it has this one unsaved files. So whenever you kick off a finding files, first thing it will do is call update unsaved files, which we'll call that function I was just talking about. So this is what gets called when you submit the when you submit this, and just sets the panel to be visible, updates the unsaved files, and then shows and then kicks off the find, which asynchronously does that. So let's go back to unsaved files. Now, because all this is threaded, I need to take a copy of the unsaved files for each thread. Or at least, I can't remember whether I did it for each thread or just once in the finding files manager. Let's have a look. So unsaved files comes in. So it's just setting it once on the find in files class. Yeah, and because it's read-only, I only need to store it once for all the threads. But obviously, if you kick off a find that's going to results panel 1 and then a find that's going to results panel 2, they ideally need their own unsaved files because it could change in between. So once I've copied this off, I know that nothing else can change it, and it's read-only, so all my threads can just read it without worrying. I did actually put a lock around it. I probably don't need to, but it is a shared lock. So I do as I showed you earlier, when I do the find text task, I just take a shared lock on it, so all threads can come in here at the same time, because I know this is read-only at this point. And this, you might think this copy is expensive, but actually it's not. Let's have a look at that. So operator equals. Yeah, okay. So I am actually just sort of doing a diff on it and only updating stuff that's changed. So if nothing's changed, it'll just use what it's got. If it has changed, obviously it's copying the lines, and you might think that's expensive, but again it's not, because I'm using my string array class here for the lines. And the string array class, to copy a string array class, is literally just 2 mem copies. So the string array class, I think I've talked about it before, but it really is the workhorse of 10x. I use it all over the place, and it's so efficient and fast. Because, like I said before, if you've got an array of strings, each string in the array is going to be doing an allocation, which will make it very slow for copying arrays around. Whereas the string array class has basically 2 arrays. One array is an array of indices, and the other array is a big array of chars for all strings. So as I'm adding strings to this class, I just add the chars for the string to the big chars array, and then add an index into that array for the actual string. So copying it is literally just copying these two arrays, which is just two mem copies. So, and something that I think a lot of people don't perhaps realise is that mem copies, allocating a sort of reasonable chunk of data of a few K or tens of K, or even a meg or so, and then doing a mem copy into it, these days is incredibly fast. Back when I first started programming, that was a big no-no. You don't do big mem copies all over the place. But on modern CPUs, allocating a chunk of memory and mem copying, a few tens of thousands of strings is so incredibly fast. So you really don't have to worry so much about copying, these string array classes around. But obviously, you have to use a string array class like this rather than just an array of strings, which would be really slow. So that's the nice thing about the unsaved files class. It works pretty well. Question, sorry. Is there a way to set files autosave mode on focus change? E.g. if you're switching from file 2 to file 1, it will be saved automatically, or switch to another app, the same thing will happen. Yeah, it's an interesting idea. There's no support for that currently, but it'd be pretty easy to add. You can probably add it through the Python scripting at the moment if you're feeling adventurous. I did work with an editor once that did that, and I kind of got used to it. And yeah, it's not a bad idea. 10x does save backups every 5 seconds, so it's not so important to save the file constantly. So even if, say, 10x crashed for some reason, when you reopen 10x, it will restore the last autosave in the background from 5 seconds ago. So it's not that much of an issue. But yeah, I could probably add an option for that. I'll add an issue for it and try and get to it at some point. Okay, so I think that's everything on the finding files, unless you've got any other questions on that. I don't think there's anything else to talk about. Where did I change the regular expressions? Oh yeah, I had to add case sensitive stuff to regular expressions, which I didn't have before. And you can just pass in std regex iCase for that, which is quite convenient. So yes, I am happy with STL in this case. It's saved me a lot of work. String array class. Just having two lower and remove functions. Nothing very interesting there. So yeah, like I said, this feature has gone really smoothly, and I'm really happy with how it's just fitted in, and I've reused a lot of stuff I've already got, as I've shown you, and the UI stuff worked really well. So I'm really happy with it. The only thing I've got to do now is the replace text, which is a little bit tricky. Obviously, if it's just opening a file, finding the text and replacing it and saving it again, that's pretty easy. But if it's an unsaved file, then I'm somehow going to have to pipe that back into 10x. So I'll probably be adding another callback function, which is set line on an unsaved file. But that shouldn't be too bad. And then you've got little tricky things like if it's a read-only file and it can't sort of check it out or whatever, what do you do with that? I'm probably just gonna, if it's a read-only file and I can't save it, I'm probably just gonna open it in 10x and have it as a modified file, so then the user has to work out what they want to do with it. I think that's the safest thing. But there's probably a few more things like that which you've got to be a little bit careful of. But hopefully it shouldn't be too much, probably another day's worth of work. So I'll probably be getting this out into a release build in middle of next week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, and then you can have a play around with it yourself and see how it works. So let me know if you have any ideas of features to do. Oh, there is one thing else I need to do. Tabbing through these results. As you can see in this one, it is doing the white border properly, but it's not doing the border on these. And it's not showing anything when you tab through the text. The checkboxes. So I need to put a border around those as you tab through them, because I do find when I'm using a keyboard, I don't want to be using the mouse at all, so I want to just be able to tab through these different things. Yeah, that works. Oh, that doesn't. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, just little things like that, just to polish it off and make it really usable. So yeah, let me know if you've got any ideas of things you want added or changes. And I think that's about it. So when you complete editing source file and then switching to the command to build the project, your file still remains unsaved changes, so you have to go back and save it manually. Yeah, actually, yeah, that's something I used to find. I haven't done that for many years using a command line build. But yeah, when I did do that, I found, like you say, it's really useful for at least when the app loses focus, to save everything. Because I'm so used to building in 10x. Or whatever editor I'm using. So just hitting build will automatically save everything. Oops, what's going on there? Oh, I think I've accidentally added something. Yes, so I always build from within the IDE, and then that automatically saves everything first. Which is a good point, actually. You could probably, instead of switching to the command line, you can probably create a Python script which goes to your command line and hook that up to a key in 10x, and then you can build directly from 10x and see the results in the output window. That should work for any command line build, and you might find that a little bit easier. I'm just reading through the comments. It would be nice to get syntax highlighting, at least for the files that are indexed, since you already said you already cache those ranges. Yes, I could. I could definitely add syntax highlighting. I was thinking about that. It's a little bit... Is it tricky? No, it's probably just adding another callback function. I've already got a function that just says, get me the syntax highlight. Oh, that's right. The reason I didn't do it is because it might slow it down a bit. Sometimes in these searches, you can have, thousands and thousands of results. And if I do syntax highlighting on the whole lot, it might slow it down. I know that's what I do in the workspace search. And it doesn't seem to slow down, but then I only show the first 1,000 matches here, as you can see. So that's one of the things that keeps it fast. Whereas I don't really want to do that on the finding files. I want it just to show all of the matches, no matter how many there are, because that's usually what you want in this kind of, it's just a different way of searching. I mean, this is very quick for jumping to anything you want. And you don't need all the results. Whereas if you're doing a finding files and to the results window, you probably do want all the results, because you can also then, do searches within here, for example, which can be very useful. So it's like a search in a search. But I might try it. It might not be too bad. And maybe I could just do it only for visible lines or something. So yeah, that's an option. 10x build command at least saves all files. Yeah. So like I said, if you want to hook your own build command up to 10x1, then that should do it for you. Okay, it's been going about an hour. So I think I'll leave it there. So like I said, I'm going to get this finished, hopefully beginning of next week. and get that build out to you. Then I'm going to be looking at the roadmap again, seeing what I want to do next. I'm probably going to do the panel docking and improve that, because that is really annoying still. And I keep getting reports that the panel docking is broken, and it's just because it's not obvious how to use it. So it was an experiment that didn't work. So I'm going to have to go back and do it the normal docking way that everyone else does it. Little things like improving the way fonts are set and adding a startup page. So I'm gonna be going through all the issues which I've got, seeing what needs to be done for beta, for feature complete, any polish issues. Let's see what I've got so far. I haven't looked at this for a while. You'll see the blue beta mark next to it. I'm sure I'm going to be adding a lot more to that. I know it's still missing some important features like syntax highlighting for other languages and various other things. I'm sure there's loads more I could add here. And things like code folding, collapsing areas of code and things like that. So I know there's still certain features that people are wanting, and I'm going to try and get as many done as I can, but I really do need to get to version 1.0 as soon as possible now. It's kind of a race to the finish line. So yeah, about the other languages, you'll probably notice on the 10x website, I have explicitly said C++ editor now. So for version 1, it will just be C++. I might add some basic syntax highlighting for other languages, but I'm certainly not going to be doing parsers for other languages. So version 1 will be C++ only pretty much. And I just have to limit the scope of what I'm doing. As you can imagine, the scope of this is just never ending and always expanding. So C++ only for now. But hopefully in the future, definitely I'll be adding more languages. I'm really looking forward to doing that. So, any other questions? So someone's saying, my OS is not in English, so while 10x doesn't have many localizations, I use command. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, there are various reasons you might want to use a separate command line. So yeah, I'll add a task for saving on focus change. Okay, question about finding files. Can I define my own files filter? I'd like to find something in shaders which have custom extensions. Yes, that should be working now. So you should just be able to just write in, so if I just want CPP files. Wow, that's slow. What's going on there? Oh, I've done the whole of dev. There we go. And that was a good test of the cancel as well. So it's cancelled the previous search instantly, which is nice. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the extensions. So hopefully that worked. We've just got CPP files. Yeah, seems to have worked. And it should also remember and store it in a drop-down list. So yeah, you can see it at the bottom there. So remember the last, I think, 10 things you've searched for. And those defaults will always stay. So yeah, that should all be working quite nicely, and the path stuff has the same drop down as well. Okay. So again, thank you to all my backers. It's going really well. Like I said, I got about a third of my target now per month, which is really good. So I've added a nice little progress bar that animates. So yeah, I'm really appreciative of all of that. It's it really keeps me motivated to know that people are using 10x for their day-to-day work now. And keep all the feedback coming because it's incredibly useful. So, I think unless anyone's got any more questions, I'll call that a day. And I'll do another one in a couple of weeks' time. Or join me on the Wednesday night C++ live stream, where it's not about 10x, but it's just about C++ and what makes good C++. We can talk about that. So hopefully see you then, and take care, and bye for now.